everyone and welcome back to Being Bethany. Now before we get started in today's video, please hit that subscribe button, join the community of small steppers and make sure you don't miss out on any latest videos. Now if you follow me on Instagram, which my link should be in the description below, you will know that I posted a story this morning about me making this video. Now normally I film my videos a little bit in advance so I have time to edit them with not so much pressure or deadlines or things like that. Well, today is different. Today I am filming this and hopefully it will go out later today as well. Now the reason for that was, and I opened up on my Instagram story, is I've had a bit of a rough week with my mental health. I had a panic attack at work which was not really that great, but the people at my work were really nice about it, which was good, but I just felt really disappointed with myself and I was quite hard on myself about the whole situation because I don't really like letting people down, which I shouldn't have been hard on myself. You know, it happens and it was out of my control and I just work hard to try and pick myself up. And that day that I came back and then yesterday I was kind of devastated. It sounds extreme, but I just didn't really do anything much because I just felt really like tired from it and just really down and disappointed with myself. But today I've woken up and I want to make this video for you guys. So hopefully I will get this all done by 4. So when you're watching this, this is me this morning trying to do that. So anyway, enough about all that jazz. What is today's video? Well, today's video I want to talk about some of my favourite self-reflection exercises. Now, last week's video, if you haven't seen it yet, please check it out. I was talking about how to really enjoy your time on your own and what that really means. And in it, I talked about how it's a great time to practice stillness and reflection. But obviously, that was quite a long video of lots of different points, and I didn't really give you too many examples about what reflection exercises you could do. So I thought I'd compile a little list of kind of quick ones and ones that I've used myself or some that I've found. And yeah, just talk through them and see if any of them spark your interest or if it's something that you would like to do. So let's get started. So my first one kind of oversees all the other ones, and that is journaling. Now, I talked about it in my last video. It's something I'm doing bit by bit, and for me, I use a bullet journal, which I've also made a video on, which is where I keep basically all my stuff in one book, just because I'm quite disorganised, and I don't like to have too many things everywhere because my brain's already scatty enough. But what I mean by this is the exercises that I'll be talking about could go in your journal. Now, I think first and foremost, a journal is a really good place to get out any emotions, perhaps in the moment. Now, I know for me, I tend to bottle things up and then I either take it out on myself or, you know, perhaps get irritable with other people, such as my boyfriend or family members and things like that. And that's not really fair. So sometimes I think getting it all out on a piece of paper, just writing, it's called stream of consciousness. You're not thinking, you're not planning about writing, you're just writing what you feel. And the great thing about that is that then when you're calmer, hopefully because you've just offloaded all your emotions, you can read back through it and you can reflect and you can sit with those thoughts or feelings and see if they are true or if they're not, or if it's just something you're feeling in that moment. So I think first and foremost, journaling is like your little go-to if you need to offload. Obviously talk to people and things like that, but if you can't, writing it down will really help. The great thing about journaling is that it's up to you what you want to do. If you want to write in it every day, you can. If you just want to write it in those moments where you feel like you really need to offload, that's fine. If you want to do it once a week, it's up to you. And I think if you don't prescribe a certain thing to it, it will make it easier. If it feels like a task that you have to do, then you won't enjoy journaling. So it's up to you to express your creativity and your thoughts and your feelings in any way that you want to. A final extension to this is something that you can practice and start with, is writing down things that you're grateful for. About 3 to 5 things. Again, this could be every evening before you go to bed, so it really sets you up in a good mood to go to sleep. It could be every morning, so it puts you in a great mood to start the day. It could be once a week, it could be twice a week. But writing down things that you're grateful for, I think, boosts your self-esteem and also just gives you a bit of perspective and a bit of hope. even if it's something as simple as the breakfast that you had. It's still something to be grateful for, and sometimes I think we just need to remind ourselves. I'd say my top tip would be journaling, and find the way to journal for you. And it might be that some of these exercises start you off on your journaling habit because you want to write it in there as well. So yes, that's my top number one self-reflection exercise is journaling and writing down your thoughts. My next one is in an extension to that, about thoughts. Now for me, I have a big problem with negative thinking, and that really affects my anxiety. It's a symptom of my anxiety, and it's something that can really destroy my day if I let it. So I've talked about in the past that I have had counselling, and I've had different types, and one of them was actually on the phone, and it was more CBT based. Now CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioural Therapy. And in it, you get set tasks and things that are suited to you and what you need. And the aim is to work through these tasks, and if you practice them enough, hopefully they will help. So I wanted to talk to you about one of those tasks today. Now that task is called cognitive restructuring. Now that might sound a bit daunting and a bit scary and a bit scientific, but all it means is taking a thought, really examining it and trying to change it for an alternative thought which is more balanced. It happens in different stages. Again, this is where a journal might be a good idea to use as a thought diary. So what would happen is, say you were having a negative thought. It might be that, oh, I'm really rubbish at this, or I'm not able to do that, or I'm so annoying to other people, or things like that. Is stopping in the moment, if you can, taking a breath, writing down that thought, and really trying to change the perspective of it. Now, sometimes that can be hard to do in the moment, and it takes a lot of practice. One, just to kind of stop yourself and go, hang on a second, that thought is too much and too harsh, and that can be really hard to do. Also, it can be hard to do if you're in a place where you can't really stop and write everything down at that moment. So what I would suggest is making a quick note of these thoughts that you have about yourself, and if you can, then reconstruct them in that moment. Do that, but if you can't, then come back to it later. So some questions to help you to stop yourself in that moment would be, what am I telling myself right now? What bad thing am I predicting will happen? And what is making me feel this way? Sometimes you just need that interruption of your thoughts to then be like, oh, I'm having a really bad negative self-talk here. Sometimes you don't really realise you're doing it to yourself, and you're getting yourself more and more worked up, and sometimes asking yourself those questions can just help to stop and give you a moment to pause and reflect. So then I was given a worksheet. What it was is, if you imagine a table and you have the situation column, you have the thought column, you have the emotion column, then you have the belief in thought column, and that would be ranging from 0 to 100%. And then you'd have the intensity of your emotion, which would be 0 to 100%. So that would be your table, and that's where you would write down your initial thoughts and feelings. Now, I got given an example which I would like to use. Perhaps your situation is you're at a job interview. The thought would be, I'm useless in interviews. The emotion from that might be that you're sad and you're disappointed in yourself. Now, the belief in your thought could be fairly high, could be 60%, but the intensity of your emotions could be higher, could be 90%. So you're experiencing really intense emotions because you are quite strongly believing in this thought. So that's what you would write down initially. So that would be the next step. Now from there, what you would do is you start to attack this by almost taking your thought to court. I quite like that, thought to court, if you can remember that. By putting it on trial and going, hang on a second, what is the evidence for this thought and what is the evidence against this thought? And it's really important in this step, which I had a hard time with, is making sure that what you're writing down as evidence is fact and is not opinion. because opinions aren't, you wouldn't bring opinions to a trial. That's not going to help you. That's not going to be seen as good evidence. So you need to make sure that it's based in fact and not opinion. And what you would do is you would then write down your evidence for this thought and the evidence against this thought. So again, I will give examples and I'm going to read it off my phone. So again, the thought, I'm useless in interviews. The evidence for this, I don't always get it right and sometimes say things that come out wrong. So that's a fact because that can happen sometimes. I have done interviews in the past where I haven't got the job. So that's the evidence for that thought. But the evidence against this thought, I have a lot of experience and the skills to do the job. That's a fact. I have done interviews in the past where I've received good feedback. Also a fact. I have prepared for this interview, and people can get nervous in interviews. The interviewers will know that. So they've written down in this example of this person the evidence for and the evidence against, and they try to stick to facts, to things that are true and likely. So the purpose of this exercise is not necessarily to disprove the thought that you have. It's just to take all the evidence and to make a new thought. So you write down your evidence, and from this you write down a sentence which brings together both of them. So it might be a sentence that has and or but in it, because you write one thing and then you add on the next thing. So for example, with that example, they've taken the evidence for and against, and their alternative thought would be, I have done interviews in the past and haven't always got the job. But I have a lot of experience, I have prepared for this, and I'm going to give it my best shot. I don't have to be perfect. And then what you would do is you would write the emotion attached to this, which again in this example is still sadness and disappointment, but with some optimism, being optimistic. And what you would do is you would write again your belief in that alternative thought and your intensity of your emotion. So in this example, they now believe that thought 75%, and the intensity of the emotion is 40% sadness and disappointment and 50% optimistic. Now, see, there's still emotion to that, there's still not complete belief, but what you've done is you've attempted to create more of a balanced thought. Because when you have negative thoughts, they're not normally balanced because they come from a place of lack of self-esteem or validation in yourself and just giving yourself a hard time. So this exercise really gets you to confront those thoughts, to pick them apart and to replace them with a new thought. Now, this works if you practice it for quite a long time, as much as you can, and what will hopefully happen is that then you can start doing that within yourself. You might not need to write it down eventually. Now, I've got two more little exercises, and these were actually taken from books that I discovered quite recently. So yeah, I wanted to share them with you. Now, my first one is from the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and I've got the links to this down below. So yes, this was a really good book, and actually it wasn't necessarily self-help in the terms of loads of exercises, it was just little snippets from her life and things that she has learned. But something in there really resonated with me, and this is when she was talking about in life our easy buttons and our reset buttons. So I will explain what that means. So she's had her own issues with sobriety in the past, and with that has come a knowledge of what things work for her in terms of helping her deal with her emotions and things that she's going through, and what things actually might help in the moment but are kind of the easy fix, and then they don't actually help and fix things. So she explains it like this. Easy buttons are the things that appear in front of us that we want to reach for because they temporarily take us out of our pain and stress. They do not work in the long run because what they actually do is help us abandon ourselves. But she talks about reset buttons being little things. So she says, big thinking is the kryptonite of high and low folks like me. When everything is terrible and I hate my life and I feel certain that I need a new career, a new religion, a new house, a new life, I look at my list and remember that what I really need is probably a glass of water. And I just really resonated to that because my boyfriend always says to me, just drink some water because you need to reset yourself. What she's done is she's written a list, almost her cheat sheet, to remind herself in those moments if she's going through something that's stressful or emotionally painful, things like that, sometimes it's really easy to reach for the things, the quick fixes. So for me, it might be like lots of snacks, unhealthy snacks, or it could be reaching for my phone and playing on a game on my phone for hours. And actually that takes me out of the moment, yes, and distracts myself, but it doesn't actually help me because, one, like this is what happened with me when I had my panic attacks, is that I spent quite a lot of the day afterwards just on my phone and really isolated myself, and it meant it kind of zapped my energy. I didn't really want to do anything, whereas perhaps if I had gone for a walk and kind of got myself out of just pushing those thoughts aside and perhaps just either confronting them or just having a reset, again, reset buttons. So yes, she writes things, for example, like she has 2 columns. So the easy buttons for her could be boozing, binging, shopping, snarking, comparing, reading mean reviews, inhaling loads of sugar and passing out. So those are things that she might reach for quickly, but it's good to self-reflect, and actually her reset buttons are drink a glass of water, take a walk, have a bath, practice yoga, meditate, play with my dog, hug my wife and kids, hide the phone, and things like that. So that was just a quick one, which I think if you can write a little cheat sheet for yourself, just as a reminder of if you're going through stuff, do the things that are going to help reset you and help you in the longer term. Rather than, I know for me, I think that's why I had like 2 rubbish days, because I just didn't really do the things that I should have done to help myself, really. And that's okay. And that comes again with an awareness that I'm still trying to learn and implement. But it's, sometimes I think I just need a reminder. So that can be your reminder, your little cheat sheet. I love a cheat sheet. I did that with my food, which I said in another video. So yes, I love a little cheat sheet. So my last exercise isn't really an exercise, but I guess something to think about. And it's come from this book called It's Not Okay to Feel Blue and Other Lies, which is a book where lots of inspirational people have opened up about their mental health and written small articles or poems or lyrics or things like that and put them all together in one place, which I think firstly is a great idea to help people feel less alone. And I've just started reading it. And I think if you can read about mental health without it being too triggering, then I think it will hopefully give you confidence that other people go through this as well, and it's not just you. But in there, I found just a cool little thing which just got me thinking a little bit. It was just kind of a different perspective to have on your thoughts and feelings. And it was by Jo Irwin. It was called A Tale of Two Cities, and she's a blogger and a mental health campaigner. And she talks about how I interpreted it was that she talks about how sometimes in a day you can be in a really good place and then go to a bad place, and just kind of what that's like, and the journey from that good place to the bad place. And she tries to imagine, I guess, her brain as a bus, and in it there's lots of different drivers, and she has named these drivers. Now, disclaimer, the names that she picks and the names that you might decide to pick are not intended to be offensive to someone with that name. It's just to do with alliteration and things like that. And it's personal, so, you know, I'm not going to be going out and calling people by these names. What I mean is, by that, is that she says that she has about 11 drivers in her bus, in her brain. And for example, she has self-hate Sandra, panicky Paula, depressed Debs, Nightmare Nancy, worried Wilma. But then she has some nice ones, kind Kim, strong Sue, determined Deborah, and things like that. So when I say, you just pick a name with the same letter, it's not intended to cause offence. But it just got me thinking how, yeah, I myself might go through motions in my day and end up feeling good, feeling bad. Someone might say something and this part of myself comes out which perhaps got triggered by it. And I just found myself trying to almost calm myself and be like, that's, I don't know, insecure Imogen, or that's critical Clara, or things like that. And I think by doing that, and I haven't done it very often, but I just thought it might be helpful for some people to kind of see the parts of yourself as people that might need a bit of tender love and care. And yeah, I just thought it was a very unique way to think about mental health and to kind of give those parts of yourself attributes. And that's not to say that the bad ones are bad, it's just that's like this and this is what happens when that. I think it just identifies more parts of yourself and gets to know yourself a bit better. Perhaps if you can do it in this creative way of kind of personifying your emotions in certain ways. She talks about how some people, the better ones, only come along on shorter shifts or things like that. She's just kind of come up with a way to personify them. So I thought that might be helpful. And just another thing, again, to just kind of stop you and go, I'm not always my thoughts, that's just a side of myself that has come out, and that's okay. So yeah, I don't know if that one makes much sense, but I would really encourage you to go read the book anyway, because I think it's really good. And yeah, I just thought that was a really interesting perspective on how to think about mental health and the parts of yourself that might come out that you don't necessarily want out there, but they're within you. And you should embrace them. So yes, that was my video. Let's hope it goes out on time. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that I managed to explain the exercises well enough. Of course, if there's anything you don't quite understand, then feel free to message me. My Instagram is down below. And yes, I hope everyone has a lovely week. Please keep talking to people. Don't isolate yourselves. That's kind of something I did a little bit this week, and I wouldn't encourage it. I would encourage to talk to people and express how you're feeling. And yes, if anyone needs anything, then please let me know. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you very soon. Bye. If you just want to write an offload when you need it in that moment. Oh, please slow down.